Hello, everyone. I'm Another Truth. I hope you're doing well and taking good care of yourselves. Um, I don't normally order Starbucks. It should be the one place that I boycott, but um, I decided to get it to try their cherry um, flavored um, latte. In fact, I ordered a cold brew with a cherry powder, oat milk, the cherry foam, the little cherry bits at the top, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I had a hankering for it, and it's what I could access at the time. So that in itself puts me in a little bit of a good mood. Not only the pep from the cold brew, but just the refreshing taste. Now, I am going to talk about something I don't normally talk about on here. And I think it has more to do with some of the disinformation being spread about the PPP loan fraud, people getting busted for it, stuff like that. To be honest with you, fraud for the PPP loan, if I'm not mistaken, was detected well before um, any of it, before this trend started, the trend of talking about it started. What that means is that uh, the FBI has been, and the Department of Treasury, they've been working hard at fighting this. Now, there have been some claims that people only needed to ask 3 questions. Now, I looked at some of the applications and the variation of the same application, the one through the IRS, the Department of Treasury, when you apply for it. And I see a very complicated application, and that you would need strict proof to obtain this loan, and you would have to prove over that course of that loan that what you use the money for, that what you requested the money for was actually used. Now, I don't know how much of that was actually enforced. um, I don't think it's as easy as people were talking about. I would think that with any loan, even with a promise of forgiveness, would require a level of work in terms of providing documentation to acquire that money, but I could be mistaken. I haven't seen any proof that there is a 3 question document that states how easy it was or easy it is to get that money. Unfortunately, people had requested it's been said some people requested money for different businesses under other people's names and this and that, which there was a lot of identity theft. It was rampant at that time around, the start of the pandemic. And so, but it's astonishing to me that some people acquired millions of dollars in payments, others in tens of thousands, and essentially forgiven, and that was it. And so it's spoken that people had taken that money and purchased mansions, homes, cars, things like that. And I don't know the particulars. I know there are some more high profile cases because of the amount of money that was taken. And then in the news, that were people worked in banks, worked in government positions, and places where they most likely still earned a paycheck and still and did not work for themselves. They worked for an employer, still applied for this and got away with it. It's just it's just amazing the level of greed and selfishness there was. And then, of course, there's unemployment fraud. So people are wondering, you know, when it's time to collect, why they're receiving less money on their refunds, why their wages are being garnished, and so on. I don't know how it was made easy to access the money, but it sounded like people were saying it's almost like an ATM. And if there was that lack of oversight, yeah, um, you have a problem there. And that's the thing. So I don't know. It's astonishing how people got away with that and how they thought they would continue to go away with it. There are some cases that are happening years later, but those investigations, I'm sure, were going on for quite some time. Now, there's some rumor about a list of people who are listed as fraudsters. I personally haven't seen it. The Department of Justice isn't going to publish that kind of information. Now, public records and news reports and maybe some um, zealous individuals might decide to compile a list of fraudsters that may not be verified people who have actually been convicted of it. So I would be wary of any list. What is going on is that more people with the more honest perspective of what's going on, they are going over the current lists. The list that, well, it's a list that does show who or what got that money to support that entity or that person um, during the pandemic when said business was lost and what that would have covered. And one person in particular, I forget his name, went through the list, did not make any accusations about anybody, did not commit to this list of fraudsters, only brought up possible questions about some of the loan requests that were published. Um, and that's just a matter of public record. So it's not something that this person had invented. So I do. Now, some people say that these PPP loans were set up as bait. Will not. I will not put anybody's personal experience down for that. There might be reasons why people feel that way, and it's not all bad or sneaky or anything. I just think that, people have different lived experiences. So, um, you know, like even if they needed it, they avoided it. People are finding out that their names and business names were used um, to acquire false funds. You have to take these things with a grain of salt because you don't know, and you don't know who you're dealing with on the internet. So I think, um, again, the identity theft was rampant during that time. It's worse than ever now. I'm not surprised. I myself am. I've asserted myself as an identity theft victim, but it's pretty clear that that is what happened, and I had to take some measures to undo some things. But it seems like it was uh, taken care of, and I followed the instructions based on my local police department, IC3, the IRS, and um, uh, the credit bureaus and stuff like that to ensure that information is locked and can't be accessed at this point. That doesn't mean anything. It just means I had to take those measures in doing that, given some incidences of potential fraud that was not of my doing, which I would not defraud um, the state for unemployment benefits I didn't earn, or the IRS um, filing um, nonsense uh, filings or anything like that. So I would not have engaged in that kind of behavior. But like I said, there's a possibility that people have stolen other people's identity to sign up for these things. And I don't know how easy that would have been if there was um, a stricter assessment of who's applying and why they're applying and for what they're applying, a closer lens to that. So I would take some of this information with a grain of salt. It's entertaining at best. Unless you see someone who is going through the actual list and making some opinions, that's one thing. They can do that, but I would take it as entertainment because that's what it is. Unfortunately, the byproduct of this fraud is that people who needed it couldn't get it because the money had run out. Um, People blamed it on these fraudsters, and that's unfortunate. And then there was a genuine need for it because people's businesses were deeply affected because people weren't getting customers and they had employees to pay for. They had to, pay for equipment that they owned to be able to do it. Everything came to a stop for a while. So, um, it was more or less needed. So I wouldn't take a lot of what's being said very seriously unless you do some background research on it. That's all I have to say about this. Thanks for listening.